Hi, everybody. So we thought we would take some time here while we're waiting for our train from Salerno to Rome to talk about language and some helpful things. And well, Jim learned a lot of Italian before coming here. He's been to Italy, I don't know, 5, 6 times. And he's steadily been learning the language. And then I jumped in, I'd say the last maybe 6 months or so, using a program called Duolingo. And I will say it's 100% worth learning some of the language, because when you go into a restaurant or a hotel or the locals see you making an attempt to use the language, you're treated better.
I would say it's night and day. They appreciate the respect that you show by making an attempt, even if you're not pronouncing everything correctly, even if you're not using the exact tense that you're supposed to use.
Just the effort.
That's right. They instantly appreciate the effort. And you're also going to find on the other end that Italians, they will, once they appreciate that you've made the effort, they will want to speak English with you. And it's a great way to build relationships and have personal experiences in Italy.
Even though I'm not organically bringing up phrases as nearly as much as Jim, I'm understanding, I'd say like 80% of what's said. And that's pretty astounding to me, because I've only used Duolingo, which has great usefulness in terms of vocabulary, except there's definitely some things that you learn that you're never going to need in Italy. So I think the fact that Jim has used, he's done
many different.
Many.
Yeah, I don't want to make this a Duolingo thing.
No, I'm just saying that's what I've used, but I think it's a benefit, the fact that he has used many different programs. Because, for instance, when in Italy, you're really not going to need to say lo squalo, the shark, una balena, a whale.
No.
Definitely not l'orso, the bear.
Yeah.
Or not la scimmia, the monkey. So,
but that happens a ton in Duolingo. Like, you can't move on Duolingo if you don't memorize how to say monkey or shark or whale. But I've yet to see one of those in Italy, and this is my 6th time here. And I usually come for extended stays.
Yes. So some phrases that you definitely should memorize before you come, because you're going to either need to say them or understand them or respond to them all the time. Dove è il bagno? Where's the bathroom?
See, that is an important one. That might be the most important one to learn. I'm sorry.
I could use a bagno right now. So.
Yeah, that'd be good. This video is going to be a little bit shorter.
Oh.
So that's another thing that you want to. La is the in feminine, and il is the in masculine. This isn't on the list, but as a general rule to cover all those things, like the boy is il bambino,
il,
and the girl is la bambina,
la.
So, and you'll also notice that la ends with a, and so does bambina. And so, in other words, masculine nouns generally, as a general rule, there's a lot of exceptions to this, although it almost never is reverse. But it's when they end with o, it's a masculine noun. When they end with a, it's a feminine noun. Like filia is daughter, filio is son, fratello is brother, sorella is sister. That kind of thing.
And I'd also add that if you speak Spanish, it will both be helpful and a hindrance in learning Italian. It will be helpful because there's much in the vocabularies of the two languages that's very similar. It's a hindrance because if you're trying to get it exactly right, like gatto and gatto, one has one T, one has two, if I'm remembering correctly. But when you have the two T's in Italian, you kind of bounce on those double consonants there.
Gatto
versus gatto. It's very small, but believe me, Italians obviously hear the difference. So if you speak Spanish, you can get by in Italy for the most part, because you'll understand much of what
they're both Romance languages. I would say if you speak Spanish, you could you can get around Italy even if you learn no Italian. However, I think if you speak Spanish, it's going to make it harder, a lot harder actually, to get fluent in Italian because so many things are so similar. And you know how on language apps, there's always a sound effect when you get something wrong? And gatto is one of the simplest words, gatto meaning cat. But I hear, from her language app all the time because she's typing one T.
Yep. I've missed it 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah, it's rough. And there goes my posture again.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about some of these phrases that you need to know. So the first one, if you're going to Hawaii, I think everybody knows the one phrase you have to learn if you visit Hawaii, and we have constant Domino's trips there because businesses tend to have their rallies and their meetings in attractive locations to get all of the franchisees to attend. So like actually right now as we speak, we're in Italy to tour Domino's, but a lot of Domino's people are in Hawaii. And the one phrase you need to learn in Hawaii is
aloha.
Aloha, because it means both
hello and goodbye.
And the equivalent to that in Italian would be, and we didn't plan this, so I'm putting her on the spot.
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao is you'll hear that constantly. I'm assuming we put that on the list. We did. And it means hello and goodbye.
Is ciao ciao.
Ciao ciao. And you'll hear that a lot. So that's a good one to learn. Buongiorno. I think this is one you probably know, but it's the reason why. Oh, okay. The reason why. I guess I'm bending over too much, and you're seeing how I'm going bald up top here. One of the things I think you'll notice about our channel is that when people film episodes, they put on a ton of makeup and they get on, nice clothes and pay a lot of attention. I'm past the point where my physical attractiveness is going to be a factor. I'm sure none of you are turning in. You might be turning in because they're like, oh, heck yeah. Nobody's turning in to just see me because of my physical appearance. So yes, I'm aging and I'm balding and all that other horrible stuff. So
no.
That's right. Not her. She's hot. I'm not. It's too late. We're married, and
that's what we should call the channel.
If you've been married before, it's forever, good times and bad till death do us part. And I'm still alive, so she's going to stay married to me. So that's fantastic. So actually here, so I don't have to look down. We'll do this. So buongiorno. You'll hear it all the time. But the other thing is, here's another point of something you don't need to learn. And it's in every language app, is buon mattina, which means good morning. So you would think, oh, well, you wake up in the morning, you go to get breakfast, you say buon mattina. But have you heard buon mattina since we've been here?
I don't think I've heard it once. I saw a restaurant called Il
Mattino.
Il
Mattino, sì. And what's funny about the Il Mattino, you would think it's a breakfast place. It sells comic books and newspapers. But anyways, so... No, but I haven't heard buon mattino once. They say buongiorno in the morning, like, hey, good day. Like your day is starting. It's buongiorno. After 5 p.m., that changes to.
I'm sorry, what's the
after 5 p.m., you don't say buongiorno anymore, you say?
Well, I would differ a little bit. It would be buonasera.
Buonasera.
However, that is also dependent kind of on the time of year, because it's appropriate to say buonasera later in like 7 p.m. in the middle of summer when it stays daylight. I just read this recently.
Okay.
And maybe earlier in the winter when it gets dark earlier.
I noticed they're saying it a lot now. Now, you may also learn, well, you will learn if you're on any sort of language app, and we'll do another video where we'll talk about, with some fans over here. We'll talk about, and one of the things you'll notice about Italians is that even as they age, they look freaking fantastic. So
gorgeous.
Yeah, it's just something about the diet. Like when you see people that are my age that are what? Oh, Mediterranean lifestyle. I misconstrued what she said by in the lifestyle. There are some of you that means something different.
Lifestyle.
If you've been to Temptations in Cancun,
okay.
They ask you whether you're in the lifestyle. It's a different thing. Okay. I'm going to have to edit that out. I'm quite sure. But anyways,
different channel.
We're going to do another story about why it is that Italians smoke a lot, drink a lot, eat an enormous amount of carbs, and still have much greater life expectancy than the United States and aren't nearly as fat. We're going to have another one about that. But anyways, you will learn buonanotte as something in the language apps, but that is, and you think, oh, buonasera, buonanotte. No, it's different. Buonasera is a greeting. Buonanotte, when you're leaving a restaurant and you're saying goodnight, like you're actually going to bed. So buonanotte is I'm going to bed. See, I don't know what the phrase is for get your ass in the camera, but that's what you mean when she grabs. Yeah, absolutely.
We're both in the frame. I have no idea.
Okay.
I should say that where we are right now in Salerno is very near the train station, La Stazione.
Sì, la stazione.
And the ocean is right behind us. And this is where you catch a ferry if you want to take a day trip to Amalfi.
Anywhere on the Amalfi coast. These are where the ferries go.
Lape.
See, now Lape, you would think that's the bee. And there are bees around here. So that is something that you want to learn. So,
especially if you're allergic.
We have two here that I've done notes, but I understand they're reversed. So one of the things you will hear a lot is come sta or come stai. And what that has to do with is that's just how are you doing? How, you know, and come sta is if you don't know the person, come stai is if you do know. So it's the formal and the familiar. You'll hear a lot of differences that you might hear something on a language app and think, oh, well, that's not how Jim and Angie say it. But the only difference might just be formal and personal. And a lot of times the vibe of the restaurant has to do with whether they're saying come sta or come stai. Mm-hmm. And in Italy, there's a lot more respect for elders, the way it used to be in the United States. And so it would be, if you're talking to somebody who is older than you and you're saying come stai, it could actually, you're trying to be nice, but it could actually be thought of as, could actually be thought of as rude. So another thing on our list is your response, which is...
I just saw number 11.
What?
Number 11 on what we're talking about here.
Oh, yes. Well, okay. So when your response, almost always the response you'll hear is va bene. And then if it's come sta, somebody you're not familiar with, you would say va bene e lei, meaning and you, how are you doing? If it's somebody you're familiar with, you would say va bene tu, how are you doing?
Confuses me because lei means her. Right?
It does.
L-E-I.
It's the difference between being capitalized or not. That is a weird thing with the Italian language that I don't know how that started, but yeah, lei is both you and lei also means her. And generally the difference is in writing, but you'll be able to know in context. Like if you say a lei, you know that you're not, the person hearing you knows you're not saying and her. You know, they know that it's a lot of it is in context. But you'll hear that a lot. So va bene, lei, is a good thing to learn. And when you're asking somebody, come stai, come stai, that's an important thing. I would say that here's another thing, or a quick break, like a general rule. Context is a huge thing. We'll talk about on another video, I suppose, all the various pros and...
You're still in the frame here.
Okay. All the various pros and cons of the various language apps and techniques to learn the language. Could it move back maybe or here? But one of the things is context. Like you will hear, like she said, lei means she. You will hear lei in language apps, lui, io, tuo. You will hear those things a lot, but you will on language apps or language, whether you're listening to something in your car, taking a class, but you almost never hear them in reality because the context of it makes it clear. Like, for instance, if you're saying io mangio, I eat, that's how you learn it when they're teaching it to you. But in fact, mangio alone, just the word mangio indicates that it's io, because if you're saying you eat, it's tu mangi. He eats, lui mangia, she eats, lei mangia. They eat, loro mangiano, we eat, noi mangiamo, you plural eat, voi mangiate. So in other words, if you say mangiate, you're talking about the plural you. If you say mangiamo, they're talking about the plural us. So generally, you do not hear those unless you're angry or you're trying to add emphasis for some reason other than anger. So it's like, io devo mangiare. I have to eat. You're really hungry, that kind of thing. So I'm not saying you shouldn't worry about learning lui, lei, io, but it's only to teach you the context. When you get to Italy, you won't be saying those things. So I would say one of the biggest differences between America and Italy is the fact that in Italy, particularly in my case, because for decades, I've been probably averaging 70 to 75 hours a week, which I know is more than the typical American, but Americans tend to do a lot of living to work. They wouldn't say that, but when you spend a huge percentage of your hours while you're awake at work, that's what you're doing. In Italy, they care about food, wine, and sex. And that's their focus. And so it's they luxuriate in that. They take much longer in meals. But the consequence for you is that they will close their businesses at times that seem inexplicable to you. Like, for instance, on Mondays, we're on a Monday right now, so much stuff is closed because it's about the slowest day and they need to rest. Like, we asked if our favorite coffee place was open this morning and they are not. So we went to another place, which is pretty good too. And they also will take huge breaks for lunch. They will take a lunch break for 2 or 3 hours.
Or 4.
Non c'è problema. Yeah, absolutely. So you will see the hours of a lot of businesses. They'll open till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then not till 8 o'clock. They'll close till some restaurants.
Well, most restaurants we found reopened at 7.
Yeah.
Or later.
And some at 8, but they'll close at 2. So they close down and then they go eat or they go home. So one of another phrase that you should learn is quando aperti. When do you open? Because when you if you're going on an app like TripAdvisor or Google or whatever, where you're trying to get to a place or you're trying to see that a place is open, you will, it's, of course, somebody literally started using a jackhammer over there. So this will be interesting. But, the Google may say, hey, they open at 10 a.m. and they close at midnight, and then you get there and it's closed. They're just closed between lunch and dinner. Most dinner places in the United States open at 5 o'clock. Here, like she says, it's usually 7, sometimes 8 o'clock. Okay, so sorry about that. Literally, like, it sounds like a joke, like an expression that guy started using a jackhammer. He was actually using a jackhammer. So we figured the sound would be really bad on that. So we're going to finish up the list here. We are back at the port that we took the ferry to.
And the ferry, by the way, is this one here. Took the exact one.
Right there. So moving on, a couple of words that you probably know, even if you studied Italian, but a lot of it has to do with pronunciation. Grazie, which is thank you, which I think Angie and I both said 100 times since we've been here. And then prego, you're welcome, because a lot of the businesses will say prego to you. So grazie, prego, those things are definitely, thank you, you're welcome, important here. So then, one of the things that you will be asked, actually, the thing you will be asked most of all is to say, you will be asked where you're from. Di dove sei? Where are you from? You won't hear di dove nato, like where were you born? You'll hear where you're from. And if it's pretty easy to look up where you're from, but if you're from the United States, you can say dove gli Stati Uniti, or you can say veniamo dagli Stati Uniti. So we'll put print on the screen so you can see it written, but veniamo dagli Stati Uniti. is what you would say. Now, so we're going to continue the list here. We're back at the ferry where we do. Wow. That's how it works, right? That's how it, now do the bleep thing, works.
We moved because it got
Jackhammer. And then this guy, and he doesn't start the engine until he's right behind me. Good Lord.
Let's just take a minute to look at the scenery here.
Jesus Christ. Well, he's gone now, so maybe you should.
It's really beautiful.
Good Lord. That is funny. That was not, I swear to God, that was not planned. Right, guys? That was not planned. That just happened. I don't know that dude.
He'll come back.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think he's turning around now.
Yeah, here he comes. Okay.
Okay, let's try again.
Okay. So the next thing you're going to want to say, now this isn't going to come up until later on in the trip, but when you will, I think until you actually do this, you're really going to question our decision making. But between Rome, Roma, and Milan, Milano, we are going to go all the way to Florence. We are going to take a train all the way to Florence, Firenze, and then we are going to take a 40-minute walk to go to Borgo Antico, and you won't get it until you eat it. But when you go there, it's not. They don't want it. There's only English-speaking menus. They don't speak. They won't speak English with you. There's no sign that says American dollars because they don't really want that. There's a reason why you have to cross the Ponte Vecchio to get there because it's a restaurant for locals, but it is the restaurant that has and here we go again, andiamo anche. And what's funny is we were here for 2 hours yesterday and there were 0 motorcycles coming by. But anyways, so what you're going to want to say when you get there, because if you speak English, they're probably not going to be excited about serving you, is due pasta alla vongole e un bottiglia di vino bianco, per favore, because that's what you want to order. Don't look at the menu. Don't get tempted and say, oh, I don't like clams or they're not my favorite, or maybe I like this more. You're going to regret it. That is the dish that they serve. Due pasta alla vongole e una bottiglia di vino bianco, per favore. And you just say it like that. Practice your pronunciation, and they're going to be able to figure out that you are not Italian, that they're English, but they will appreciate the effort that you make.
Can you break down what those words mean?
Sure. Due pasta alla vongole is 2 clam pastas, and una bottiglia, a bottle di vino bianco, per favore, a bottle of white wine. Their house white wine at Il Borgo Antico is fantastic, and so that's plenty good enough for you, and you're going to be just fine with that. And there is an appetizer which we have pictures of us eating it over the years that you will also want to get if you're super hungry, but that's a phrase you need to learn. And you may say to yourself, oh, well, I'm not planning on going to Florence. Well, go to Florence. What's the matter with you? You got to go to Florence if you're in Italy. So, and this last one it would only apply to you if you're from the United States. And I want to be very clear here. This is not a political statement. This is not a political show. We don't make political statements on the show. This is a practical statement. You have to be aware that Italians feel things very passionately. And so over the course of the years, they have beloved certain presidents, like John Kennedy. Maybe you saw scenes of Barack Obama showing up in Rome and getting unbelievable cheering crowds. But other presidents have not been perceived as well because of, certain value systems that they have here that maybe are a little different than the United States. So what I want to explain to you is that even though you're 49% of your instincts might be to that this is not the case for you, I'm just saying this on a practical level. If you're trying to get good service, if you're trying to get good relations, even though this is a lie, one of the rare lies, even if you are telling a lie, I really, really recommend that you say this, because you will see when you say that you're in the United States, a lot of time the countenance will look negative to you. You can turn that around in a positive. And what you have to say is, non ho votato per Donald Trump. Even if you did. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have or should have voted for Donald Trump. I'm just saying the perception of him is very negative here. And I feel like if I explain why, I'm going to get even more vitriol on the comments. So, but why doesn't even matter. In terms of you. You will see that that's the perception here. And by the way, political wise, like as we're taping this, this is right after our exit from Afghanistan. And so Joe Biden is perceived as very negatively here. Joe Biden's election was treated as a celebration in Italy. That is completely turned around with how the Afghanistan situation has gone. And so, like I say, it's not a political statement. You don't want either of those presidents, it doesn't want to be part of your vocabulary. So if you choose, hey, it's against my principle, MAGA, and you got the red hat and everything, and you don't want to say it, then don't say it. But please don't get mad at me. I'm just giving you advice on how to enjoy your trip the most. And then, since I don't want to end on that, I want to give one more general piece of advice that's going to be very helpful. Those are the 10 specific phrases that you will find most useful in Italy. But in terms of a general category, particularly if you have a job like mine where you drive around a lot, the subjects matters to learn. The one you want to learn is food, dining, any of those categories, because you're going to spend so much time in restaurants. You want to know the difference between carne, meat, and manzo, beef. You want to know pesce, which is fish. Whether you're using a book or you're using a language app or you're listening to it on your CD, any kind of food thing you recognize because of two things. You don't just memorize the things you want to memorize the things you don't want. And my nephew Grayson will be cheering this one because he ordered what he thought was a sausage pizza. He saw the word salsiccia in it, and it did have sausage, but it had other stuff that was less attractive. And to him, that's right, I apologize. And he actually had a bad meal in Italy, and he still remembers it today because every other meal that we had was so fantastic. So you want to learn both of every food item that you possibly can. Another thing that a food item we just used in where we had lunch was, in Italy, they do not put ice in glasses. That's not a thing. If you order a Coke, a soda, depending on what area you are from, it will not come in a glass. It will come in a glass bottle. Sodas come in glass bottles here, but it won't come in a glass a lot of the times. But no time will it come with ice, ever, ever, ever. So,
and it's hot here. What is it? Mid-80s right now?
Yeah, it's mid-80s. So if you want ice in your glass, you have to be able to say, per favore, il ghiaccio, per favore, and it's spelled GHICCIO, but it's spelled it's pronounced ghiaccio, and they will be surprised, but they'll be cool about it and they'll bring it to you. So those are the 10 phrases, but also learn everything food, and buon appetito. Enjoy your meal.